Welcome back to Point of View. On International Women's Day, we are exploring the status of women in our society. It's an issue for women all over the world, and it's no different here in PNG. In fact, many would say that we have quite a long way to catch up. In our modern history, over the past 4.5 decades, we've only managed to elect 10 women to Parliament, beginning with Dame Josephine Abijah, who was elected as a member of the Papua New Guinea House of Assembly in 1972. Well, not much has improved, although at the last elections, a record 3 women were elected to our national parliament. Our traditional cultures have been a big factor in this. So how has the status of women in PNG changed and evolved from traditional times to today?
Well, thanks, Tania. That's a good question. Traditionally, I think the roles of women was pretty much to be the primary caregivers, stay at home, look after the kids, make sure that everything in the house is actually in order. But today you find more and more women actually working, joining the workforce, more and more women actually becoming leaders in their workplace. And also you find women doing more non-traditional roles, such as women becoming engineers, pilots. So it's come a long way in PNG alone, so it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the role of women, the status of women has changed quite a bit. Nona is absolutely right. We've gone from caregivers, and we're more in the public, we're more in the workforce, we're more visible. And it's important, I think, in my line of work with models and fashion designers, I see more women more confident in themselves. They're excited about their beauty, and then they're excited about what they can offer Papua New Guinea and the world. So definitely we've changed quite a bit. Yeah.
Well, Cleo, you're a little bit younger than some of us sitting at the table. So, your experiences your memories may not go back as late as mine do, but what have you observed, from the time, from looking at the role of your parents, your mother, say, to you, yourself and your peers?
Well, I think that, the status of women is in, changing from this traditional society to now that I think education has come a long way into grooming women and building them up.
Yeah, it's interesting that you talk about education. I remember looking at photographs of, you go and look at the old photographs from Sogeri High School and Ayura National High School from like the 70s, and you will maybe see one woman. If you look at those old photos, that's, and I mean, it's
That's
true,
It's amazing.
It's crazy. I just remember thinking, sexist much, like what about the girls much,
You're right. All my father, his school, all I see are men and his mates and his mates and their mates.
Yeah.
I don't really hear much about, who is that girl, or who are their school, mates who are girls. Yeah.
So, I think the attitudes have changed a lot from parents now wanting to educate their daughters just as much as they want to educate their sons. And that's like, to me, that's like, I used to feel so privileged that I was in my family that were giving me an education, when my peers who were boys and they had sisters who were just not. I
think we've come to actually see. I'll keep going back again to this, our self-worth. What we can bring to the table as the breadwinners, or as the support to support our people and our men and our country, for that matter. So it's amazing to see that.
Yeah, as when we were talking about that, like in terms of women being traditionally caregivers, but also, there's one of the, like, what about empowerment? What sort of empowerment did they have through that? I'm just thinking about empowerment in terms of the things that give a man power is his land and his, wives and pigs and that's not necessarily in my Finschhafen culture, but that's in, a lot of other cultures.
Definitely. You have to remember, it wasn't too long ago that conversations like, I'm beginning married, so I'm married, so you may sell him and go to school. That was just had in just the last, couple of years, just like yesterday. So these types of attitudes we have to think about have really changed. Like, my father is very adamant on education, and he puts us in the same ranking with my brothers. But in terms of our roles, you're right, they have changed. We're slowly, but we're getting there, I reckon.
Yeah. And do you think the arrival of, like patriarchal structures like, without meaning to offend anybody's spiritual or religious beliefs, like the Christian church coming in, which is a very male, patriarchal structure from a very patriarchal culture. I know I'm asking this because Fincher, where I come from, we are a matrilineal culture, traditionally. Yes. But I never knew that growing up because I grew up in a patriarchal structure. And so, sometimes I wonder whether we've gone backwards. Like traditionally I might have been better off. The ground comes through the mother.
That's true. I read somewhere that when the Christianity was brought to the Highlands, there's this little study I read that they said that men couldn't have practice polygamy. So the guy who was practicing polygamy, rather than divorce his wives or leave them, he just killed the other wives and kept one. That's, I couldn't understand that, but that's what happened.
Some kind of thinking, yeah.
So I think, education has played a really key role in changing those mindsets and making people realize that, being educated, getting an education, rising in that professional arena gives you us women that space to actually overcome some of these challenges.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree with what Philly was saying earlier on about not being able to fly with one wing. You cannot even fly if you have a stone on your back. So some of our traditional cultures had suppressed women, but into this modern age now we see women being able to rise up and do their own decisions, of which I see decision making is one of the key factors that is being empowered to women these days. I have an aunt back in the village who is a village magistrate, and she does decision making. So I think we're proud of that. Yeah.
Well, we'll take a short break right now, and when we return, we'll be exploring the value women bring to business and the work of the Business Coalition for Women. Don't go away, we'll be right back.